What's going on, YouTube? This is your melanated warrior, Heru, Hainus, and this is another installment of Facts Over Feelings. Leave your feelings at the door so we can get to the facts, and we are right back at it. We got some explosive content. I mean, if you would have ever, and I know I've said this before, but I do not disappoint when I say this. If you would have ever shared a video, you need to share this one. I know on the surface it may seem like, oh, you know, people, I ain't into politics, or, you know, the politics and stuff like that. I'm not into that. Anyways, this has nothing to do with that. You know, here at the FOF Squad, we dig deeply. We are known for our high analytical skills, and we don't just sit up there and say and dwell on the surface. We are not surface dwellers. Matter of fact, if this is something that you're not familiar with, I guarantee you this can get so deep you may need a submarine to get your ass to work tomorrow. I guarantee you this is some deep shit. This needs to be shared. I am not playing around. We're going to get right into it because we're going to suspend activity, you know, dealing with the second, you know, dealing with following up with the last segment and stuff like that, because I even from some of the comments, and not those who fuck with the squad, I'm just saying from people who think that, you know, this is something to play around with. You really don't know who you're dealing with. Not in terms of the FOs, I'm talking about the people who rule. You must understand the matrix that they've created has all been to feed on people who are carbon-based. This is a carbon-based environment. Organic chemistry is a study of the world around you, and you are a carbon-based being. They cannot, this is one of the reasons why they can't give up on the matrix. This is the thing that maintains their existence. And I'm not talking about figuratively speaking that they're feeding off of you. We understand that. We know about culture vultures and cultural appropriation and all of that different stuff and cultural exploitation. But what I'm talking about, literally, they are feeding off of you. Their whole existence demands it. This is why these individuals are either complicit or they have this sort of unbridled and you know, passionate you know, anger against you. They're passionate about their anger against you because they understand that their existence or maintaining that existence depends upon your ignorance. Being powerful depends upon you being powerless. You understand what I'm saying? Because in a world where we say that the blind leads the blind, you only need one eye to be king. Stop fearing Goliath, David. Now, this is the thing that I want you guys to understand. These crackers are dealing with compartmentalized information. They're ignorant not only of their own origins, but of their own political process. And then you have these Uncle Toms and these puppets and, you know, these individuals who consider themselves to be political experts out here parroting the same ideas, getting you to be deeply involved in conversations which hold no merit, which are merely just exercises of futility. Let's get started. Because we have so much information to cover, and I just want to get off into smacking, first of all, these blancos over the head with their own history. You understand what I'm saying? Because so many of them go back to 1776, and this is the birth of a nation, and all the Trump and the elections were stolen, and like, let's go Brandon, and what are Democrats ever done for black people, and yada, 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 as if they know about their own political parties, as if they know about how these things are really actually set up. Those who know will remain quiet. Those who don't are the loudest ones in the room. But see, let me tell you something. The fact of the matter is, they talk about all of this history that they think that they know. And yet, no Blanco that I've ever talked to in person, no Blanco that I've ever talked to in person, except those who are adept, and that has been very few and far and in between, mentions that, see, we're going to go off, look, you about to love history. You about to love history and you about to love science, because we about to break the doors down. First of all, let's go and we take it back to 1824. 1824 was the election of all elections. 1824 exposes something, because a lot of you sit up there and say, because like I said, don't get involved in these arguments with these Blancos because of what they think they know. Even these niggas who went around like Candace Owens or Candace Owens thinking that she knows shit. And she knows nothing, which shows you who she's showing you. After I divulge this information, I will prove without a shadow of a doubt that they know that they are manipulating you. Like I said, they depend on you being ignorant. So like I said, this is not a surface level conversation at all. We go deep. Like I said before, after this, you might need a submarine to get to work. This how deep we about to go. So let's go. You know, fact of the matter is that when you're dealing with these political parties, like any historian will tell you, it's not that the Democrats and Republicans or the Republicans have always been for black people, because you have to remind yourself, Lincoln, who freed the slaves, supposedly if you buy into the slavery narrative, was a Republican. And that's what Republicans always say, you know, we helped our blacks, we helped to free them. But damn sure we know that the Republicans were not the ones, if anything, fighting for your freedoms, because first of all, one, we know that the institution of slavery wasn't as all encompassing as they make it out to be, and two, the South had a president of their own. We're going to get into that. But before we get off into that, like I said before, let's take a look at the 1824 election. Okay, the 1824 election was between John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson. Why is this important? Because it's going to show, like I said before, that people know nothing about politics. Because even those who consider themselves to be extremists or on the fringe, they'll say, well, the presidents are selected, not elected. We know that the Electoral College is the one who selected presidents. That's even untrue. They don't even select the president. I'm about to smash. Like I said, they don't even select the president. You know how you don't know? You go back to the 1824 election between, Andrew Jackson and John Quincy Adams. Now, in 1824, John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson was causing a rift between political parties, because all up until that time, we only had one party in the United States of America. Did you know that? So this whole idea of a Democratic Republican, oh, yeah, it represents the people, that's not the history. Even for white folks, that's not their history. One party system ran this country for a long time. It was called the era of good feelings, literally. Okay, so what you have is during the time 1824, you start to get a split, because it were people who were for the banks and people who were not for the bank. Andrew Jackson was not a fan of the banks. Matter of fact, Andrew Jackson was the only U.S. president to balance the budget to where we owed no dollars, or they owed no dollars. Excuse me, let me stop talking like we had any vested interest in this so-called wicked and corrupt country. Okay, so Andrew Jackson runs against John Quincy Adams in 1824, and guess what happens? Andrew Jackson, who has the plurality of the popular, plurality means the most, or he had in the layman's terms. So he has the most electoral votes, and he has the most popular votes. So he won the popular vote and the Electoral College. And guess what, brothers and sisters? He still lost. So what you have to understand is that when you get these people talking about, the Electoral College, no, they don't. It went to the House of Representatives, and then they still chose John Quincy Adams because they wanted to they weren't ready. They didn't like Andrew Jackson. And then what did Andrew Jackson do? Did he cause a fuss? No, he just waited till next election and ran, and then he won, because he understood how things work. So all this fluff that crackers sit up here, oh, well, yeah, we got the election stolen. First of all, even if you take a look at Trump's election in 2016, Trump won the Electoral College, not the popular vote. Hillary won the popular vote. You didn't see them crackers talking about injustice then. But see, like I said, they want to ignore the history. They want to ignore how this is set up. So once again, stop listening to Negroes sit up there talk about, oh, well, the Democrats, they sitting up here and they've been stringing black people along since forever. No, because remember, let's go back to, like I said, Lincoln and the Civil War. All right, when Lincoln, supposedly freed the slaves. Like I said, if you buy into the slavery narrative, Lincoln was a Republican. Okay, Okay, and there were two presidents at the time. Do you remember Jefferson Davis? So let's go off into these things, man. Let's bring the receipts. We're about to show you a photo of this individual, because we play no games. So you're about to understand exactly. This is Jefferson Davis. That's Jefferson Davis, a Democrat. He ran the South as they seceded from the Union. Okay? Democrats were the South and the Southern president. Okay, so what you about to understand, we about to divulge a lot. We about to get into it, because like historians will tell you, those who are adept, the white folks really only switched ideological stances. They switched parties when it was convenient for them. So when they started to see that the support was going towards, individuals of color and individuals who held different ideological stances, they just switched parties. That's the only thing that they did. They just switched parties, and we already know it's two heads on the same beast anyways. That has built a matrix that has to feed literally off people of carbon. Oh, I like to kick ass, because this is what you need to know. All right? And so we're going to go off into it. Because I want you guys to see something right quick. I want you guys to see a photo. This photo right here, that's a real photo. This is a photo of Stetson Kennedy. Stetson Kennedy was an individual who infiltrated the Klan. But obviously he loved what he was doing because you see his outfit, see his attire. Do you know that the hidden book of the Klan, now watch how your boy tie all of this together. Do you know, excuse me, the book that they use in the Klan is called the Quran? Yeah, Quran, but with an L. You know these blancos ain't got no ingenuity. It's called the Quran, Kloran. Yes, it's the book that they go by, which tells them their rules and all of this different stuff, and you know, ranks and positions from the Imperial Wizard to, you know, the dragons, and you know, all of these terms that they use and what authority that they have, and you know, the teachings. And of course, we understand that they use so-called quote unquote black magic. That's why they call themselves Grand Wizards. But you know, that's neither here nor there. So what happens is this guy Stetson Kennedy ends up infiltrating the Klan, releases his information to the FBI and all of these other, you know, justice departments and stuff that we have within our organization, but they didn't care because, like I said, they know the end game. They know exactly what they're trying to do, will intend to do. So we're going to read a little bit of what he disclosed, okay? And we're going to show you how deep this is. This is, you can find this at Spartacus Educational, www.spartacus-educational.com on Stetson Kennedy. We're going to read a little bit of, you know, a little bit of these paragraphs, a little bit from these paragraphs in these from this article. Stetson Kennedy was born in Jacksonville, Florida in 1916. After graduating from the University of Florida, he joined the Federal Writers Project. While working on the project, Kennedy was deeply influenced by the book "You Have Seen Their Faces," a documentary a documentary account of impoverished living conditions in the South that had been produced by the novelist Erskine Caldwell and the photographer Margaret Burke White. Okay, he was also a member of the NAACP. This guy that was in the hood, standing in front of the Capitol building, also a member of the NAACP. Now let's continue to keep going down. All right, now this is very important. Now this is what he disclosed. This is what he told, and this is quote. This is one of the six bulletin points of what you want to take out of the article that they put in the article. And it says, working undercover as a member of the Ku Klux Klan, Stetson Kennedy discovered the organization switched its support from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party when Dwight Eisenhower was selected as its presidential candidate in 1952. It was Eisenhower's record as an enforcer of racial segregation in the U.S. Armed Forces that opened up the possibility of swinging the traditional Democratic South into the Republican camp. My policy for handling colored troops will be absolutely equalitative treatment, but there will be a segregation where facilities are afforded, Eisenhower said in 1942, and the Klan proceeded to make much of this fact. On July 16th of that same year, a directive bearing Eisenhower's signature went out to the Red Cross clubs in London. Now remember Red Cross, because we coming back to that. The Red Cross clubs, an elite secret society organization. Remember that, because we'll come back. This is all about to say. This is about to be so beautiful. Ordering that care should be taken so that men of two races are not needlessly intermingled in the same dormitory at the same tables in the dining halls. So remember I said process. Keep in mind that he's talking to the Red Cross community who takes blood all over the world. Primarily from people of color, but don't want to sit at you or don't want you intermingling. You can have my blood in your body. Ooh, let me stop. Finally, when in campaigning for the presidency, Eisenhower announced his opposition to civil rights legislation by Congress. The Klan took off the wraps and went all out for Ike. On election day, more Negroes than ever in American history defied the Klan terror and marched to the polls. But nevertheless, at least 5 million were kept from voting. The hate propaganda did its work, and Claude Schuler's predictions that 5 southern states will go for Eisenhower came true. So the South, in those who you consider to be, which is the largest Republican bases at this moment in time, did what? Went way out for the Republican Party now, because they started to see that there was an ideological shift. Okay, so remember in the Civil War, the South had its own president, Jefferson Davis, who was a Democrat. Okay, and the North had their own president in Lincoln, who was a Republican. Then they end up gradually switching stances, and then you've seen that actually became the way that the Republican Party started to do things and gain momentum, and especially when Nixon became elected. Him and Reagan and Bush all ran on this idea that we're going to be tough on crime, tough on niggas. And then white folks say, oh, well, yeah, that's the party for us. Democrats, Republicans, they got you playing that game. Oh, it gets deep. We're about to get even deeper. Now, remember we talked about the Red Cross and things like that because we talked about the way that this matrix is built. Now, you have to understand, they keep talking about how they want to keep blood and, it's about bloodlines and people keep buying into that. If it was about bloodlines, why are they taking black people's blood and using it in a variety of ways? We all heard about, Henrietta Lacks. Some of you are familiar with that story. And then, I told you guys all the time that these institutions are set up all across the world because you were given the story that a woman by the name of, I believe her name was Clara Banks. But, research to what, I think that it was Clara Banks or something like that. But she was supposedly considered to be the founder of the American Red Cross here. And, during the Civil War, she was treating soldiers and all that different stuff. She was not the founder of the American Red Cross. When you do even more research, you realize that she was given that authority by the Red Cross organization while she went to a Geneva Convention. Because this is a secret society, brothers and sisters. You must understand that. We are dealing with literal vampires. Okay, so the reality of it is that she was given that authority by the Red Cross organization, and then you have, let's see, let me go off into my notes. Henry Dunnett. Henry Dunnett basically was the founder of the Red Cross organization. So it was Henry Dunnett, and then Henry Dunnett's organization, the Red Cross, had given, the woman who they say is responsible for discovering the Red Cross here in the United States, honorable decorations such as the Golden Cross of Baden and the Prussian Iron Cross. So these are all secret organizations, okay? And I want to show you exactly what the images of the so-called Red Cross and see if whether or not this is something that you are familiar with. See, it's actually called the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. These are its symbols. It has three emblems. The Red Cross uses three emblems: the Red Cross, the Red Crescent, and the Red Crystal. Have you heard of this? Let me show you the emblems. And as you see, this is where they operate and take blood all across the world. Now, it's something going to be very interesting that I'm about to bring out. But these are the three emblems that they use. Now, we understand now, we'll go and use another segment to go deep off into the symbolism of these, but a lot of you probably already know these things. So they go by the Red Cross, the Red Crescent, and the Red Crystal. Now, what's interesting is that the Red Cross has been under fire for a very long time about how they've been handling misappropriation of funds. You find them in all of these disasters in Haiti and all of the hurricanes and stuff like that, not really providing any assistance, but just there, right? Because, they want to act like they're doing something, but you have to understand what they really actually need the blood for, and it's not for survivors of war and all of that different stuff. They can care less about that. They just there to act like that's what they're doing. Let's check. Let's go bring up the receipts. This is the article, 10 Disturbing Things ProPublica NPR Learned Investigating the Red Cross During the Sandy Relief Efforts. While the Red Cross called its response nearly flawless, a ProPublica investigation uncovered a much different version of events. Okay, and just some of these things, so we're going to go off of some of the things that they discovered while they were there. For example, children were sheltered next to sex offenders. Sex offenders, staff didn't know / follow procedures. Sex offenders were placed in a special area of dorm, but they weren't there. They were all over, including playing in children's areas. Mothers in shelters had raised issues. Unaccompanied minors handled well. That's what they claim. Showers. Unrelated adults showering with children. Conjugal visits. Oh, this gets deep. Let's see what also was going on during that so-called relief effort. It wasn't just Sandy. The Red Cross dispatched 80 emergency response vehicles after Hurricane Isaac, but they were nearly empty. Quote, "We were sent away down on the Gulf with nothing to give, told just to be seen." Jim Dunham, Red Cross emergency vehicle driver. See, I'm telling you, this is what's going on. Because what you have to understand is blood is primarily plasma. Remember we explained this in the book. Over 55% of your blood is plasma, this yellow liquid, this gold. Okay? That has antibodies and all of this different stuff in it. And this is what they extract. This is what they want. And they'll give you your blood back. They want the plasma. And they're feeding, you find them in low-income communities. Oh, we about to break this shit down. Let's go into the articles right quick, because I'm so excited to even present this information to y'all, because this is what's really actually going down. This is from The Insider. This was published March 11, 2021 at 8:17 a.m. by Julia Press and Robin Lindsay. Business is booming for the $24 billion plasma industry, but it may be putting vulnerable donors at risk. So let's go off into this. These are some things that you may not know, or you may know. But what would I do by presenting information that I think that you know? That's a waste of time. The U.S. supplies 2/3 of the world's plasma, and it's one of the few countries where donors get paid. 2/3. Look at our population. We supply 2/3, and you know what chosen people and bloodline they're really actually after. That's one of the reasons why they're doing that. In fact, thousands of Americans rely on plasma donation as a main source of income. The pandemic has increased demand for plasma, and desperate volunteers may be putting themselves at risk to continue giving. Let's read. For thousands of Americans, donating plasma is a lifeline. In the 90 minutes it takes to donate, they make 5 times the federal minimum wage. Americans supply 2/3 of the world's blood plasma. The industry is worth over $24 billion today, according to the Marketing Research Bureau. And that number could nearly double by 2027 as global demand for plasma-derived medicines rises by 6 to 8% each year. Well, let's continue to keep reading. Plasma is the yellowish liquid that makes up more than half of blood volume. Hospitals use it in transfusions to treat burns and liver failure, relying on unpaid donors. Biopharmaceutical companies also use it to manufacture life-saving drugs. Unlike those going towards transfusions, plasma donations destined for medication do not need to be labeled as voluntary or paid. That's led to a boom in private, so it don't even need to be labeled as voluntary. Like I volunteered to give my blood. We don't give a fuck where the blood came from. Now, this is, hold on. Let me continue to keep reading before I get off into the bomb that I'm about to drop. That led to a boom in private for-profit plasma centers across the U.S. Now, with the Red Cross getting all of this blood, almost 50%, more than 50 to 60% of the blood that comes from people and stuff, most of it is going to private industries, private sectors. That's why they sit up there and fake like they're doing something coming to disasters. Oh, yeah, we're here to help. You ain't here to do shit. With the number of centers tripling over the past 15 years. According to analysts at Fortune Business Insights, 2/3 of these centers are owned by one of 3 companies, CSL Plasma, Grifols, and BioLife. Even before the pandemic hit, global demand for plasma far outpaced supply. That gap only worsened in 2020 as a mix of social distancing, cleaning requirements, and donor reluctance caused global donations to drop 15%. Now, this is what's deep. This is what you have to understand. This is what's going to rock you. With no synthetic substitute for plasma, drug manufacturers rely on a steady stream of human donors to make up their supply. So you can't synthetically create this shit. You have to get it from humans. Treating just one patient with plasma therapies for a year takes between 130 and 1,300 donations. Pause. Understand the subliminal. One vampire needs a ton of this shit. Here we go. Savage story is a common one, and it was talking about some individual who gives. It says a study from the Center for Healthcare Research and Policy found that 57% of donors at one Cleveland center reported at least 1/3 of their income that month will come from donating plasma. Researchers like Ochoa found that plasma centers tend to be concentrated in states with lower minimum wages and cities with more people living under the poverty line. Pause. Now, these crackers want to sit up here and talk about, oh yeah, these people are poor and, they're inept and what can we do? They keep you poor for a reason. so they can get your plasma. Because obviously, like I said before, and I reiterated this in this manuscript, is that you do not know what you are. Therefore, they can define who you are. You're a Catholic, you're a Christian, you're this, you're that. You're a Democrat, you're a Republican. But all they want is that damn plasma to keep them alive, because they are feeding off of you. And these individuals know that they say, well, these blacks say, now that they have COVID, they're at the height of all chronic illnesses to date. They have osteoporosis, diabetes, AIDS, and all of this. They don't care. Still give me the plasma. If you truly had these things, like I told you, if Blanco Science had truly said that you had these things, why do they still want your plasma? Oh, this is about to get deep. Hold on. Let me tell you something. Demand for plasma from recovered COVID-19 patients was so great that at times they could make as much as $200 in a single visit. That inspired students at Brigham Young University, Idaho, to intentionally try to contract the virus with the hope of getting the disease and being paid for plasma that contained COVID-19 antibodies, according to an official notice released by the school. What you have to understand is, this is also the term monoclonal antibodies. Clones, it's cloned antibodies. Antibodies are in the plasma. Okay, as you can see. Now, this is what's deep. Notice how I told you how deceitful these crackers are. Not that they're intelligent, they deceive you. And then they will sit up there and tell you, this is the only way we can make this technology. This is the only way we can come out with these therapies, these COVID pills. And then they will tell you, notice the debate that they have in their political circles. That's why I told you this is all garbage. They will sit up there and tell you, oh, well, yeah, natural immunity may or may not work, but then you need this COVID-19 vaccine. But they literally make the vaccine off of natural component, off a natural fluid called plasma that is already in you. They take it out, manipulate it, then give it back to you and tell you this is what you need when you already have it. This is what you need to know. Oh, I'm going back to old Heru. I don't even care if I'm yelling at this point in time, because this is deep. This is deep. These crackers running around telling you, oh, well, yeah, natural immunity won't work. And the very medical therapies that they use are extracting it from people's plasma and giving it back to you, telling you that you need it because, oh, natural immunity doesn't work. But, oh, that's where I get the therapy from. Because, see, they manipulated you with the sugar. You don't understand how powerful sugar is. It is the basis of life. Remember, that's why everybody always talks about when they're trying to get back to health, what do? They go to plant life. Because plant life carries what? Glucose. Glucose is the only sugar your blood runs off of. Now, this is deep. Because what is the number one metabolic illness on the planet? Diabetes. And that's why I say, oh yeah, take your glucose strips. But notice, every other sugar that they feed you with is a combination of glucose. You have high fructose corn syrup, which is fructose and glucose. So when you run out of the enzymes to split that and get the glucose from the fructose, which more than likely, if it's high fructose corn syrup, they can have ratios as high as 90% fructose, 10% glucose, and sometimes even higher than that, to where there's very little glucose at all. So remember, the blood only runs off glucose, no other sugar. But these crackers inundate you. You can take a can of Pepsi. It'll have more than an ounce of sugar in it. For those who need an idea of this, and if you smoke weed, you ever had an ounce of marijuana in your hand? Imagine an ounce of sugar in a small can like that. Okay? More than that in a small can. And think about it. If you've ever conducted this experiment, because we've all were Kool-Aid junkies when we were little. And remember, you will pour Kool-Aid and sugar into that water. And what will happen if you pour too much sugar? It will fall to the bottom. Right? Because water obviously is a universal solvent, right? It'll absorb everything. But then when water has all its its connections made, molecular ties made, what happens is any excess falls to the bottom. So what Blanco was ingenious at in his labs was getting these putting other agents inside of these liquids to get it to hold sugar and making the sugar more powerful. You see what I'm saying? Because water would let you know when something was too sweet. It just wouldn't even chemically bond to it. It wouldn't even chemically bond to it. And you find out that you are sick according to, and these blancos used to sit up there and say, oh yeah, remember the articles? Oh, well, should you eat according to your blood type or your blood sugar? Because your blood type is a sugar. Did you know that? Oh man, I am killing you niggas. The antigen, they even qualify, oh yeah, it's a protein or a sugar, but it's more or less a sugar. And see, we're about to read this right quick so I can conduct my closing argument right quick, because you think it's a game. This is from NLM, National Center for Biotechnology Information, Bethsaida, Maryland. You know, the people who like to conduct a lot of experiments or whatever, right? It says, for example, the antigens of the ABO blood group are sugars. They are produced by a series of reactions in which the enzymes catalyze the transfer of sugar units. So let's go again and get this understanding. Blood group antigens are either sugars or proteins, and they are attached to various components in the red blood cell membrane. For example, the antigens of the ABO blood group are sugars. They are produced by a series of reactions in which enzymes catalyze the transfer of sugar units. So remember, when you're lactose intolerant, lactose is a sugar. You are sugar intolerant. So when people say, oh, I can't drink milk, I'm allergic to milk. You're allergic to the sugar that's in milk. Boy, I'm about to, man. And these crackers know it. You see how deadly this shit is? You see how when I talked about, even when Eisenhower was talking about, oh yeah, he went to the Red Cross, consulted that organization, because this is what they do. They pride themselves on taking the blood or the plasma or the life-giving energy out of melanated beings to survive. And you talk about how, yeah, they try to keep their bloodlines. They're these elite bloodlines. How? Bitch, they taking our blood. And remember, 55% of blood is plasma. So it's literally this plasma that they're taking up out of you in order to survive and feed. So if they cared about how clean their bloodline should be or how unadulterated their bloodline should be, why are they consuming my peoples? Check. I'm just getting started. Heru, Hainus.